Welcome to the Nerdlore podcast, where we talk stories, theories, and lore. I'm one of your three hosts, Shiny Shoes.
I'm Crashstarling.
Not with us tonight is Slipshock. He'll be back next week. And tonight, we're going to discuss Silent Hill lore. And we have with us Magnus Mark I, horror streamer. Way Magnus.
That's a hell of a title. Hello, thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm going to take a sip from my goblet full of blood.
Well done.
And
So before we go into it, was hell of a title? Was that a pun? Please tell me.
I
it was
have
intended.
no idea what you're talking about. Puns? Me?
It just happens.
What's that?
Brilliant.
Comedy horror? I don't know. I've never seen anyone do that on stream. Anyway, yes, Silent Hill. So before we start with Silent Hill, before I can even get into the lore of the actual games, if you're a horror fan and you want to get into Silent Hill and you're listening to this podcast, something I definitely recommend if you enjoy horror movies, go watch the movie Jacob's Ladder. I tweeted about before we went to go ahead and record this today that I was going to mention this, and there's a reason for it. The directors and main story writers of Team Silent have actually referenced Jacob's Ladder as being a major influence for them. And you'll see a lot of things that happen in Silent Hill referenced in the film, such as the extremely fast shaking heads, the entire tones of life, death, and rebirth. All of that actually is from that film, which was then actually about a book from the 14th century. We're not going to go that far. Anyway, Silent Hill. If you're going to address Silent Hill, you have to take into one of the major concepts. It's that there's usually, when you're talking about horror and haunted things, there's usually two different types of like hauntings, if you would. Usually you either get a person being haunted or a location being haunted. And Silent Hill as a town, which for the series in of its sake, it's always taking place in Silent Hill. The town itself is supposedly one of those second scenarios where something so tragic and so horrible happened that the entire town itself is wrapped up in that negativity. And that's where you get that entire dark dimension from. The entire game series started because there was a cult, okay? And this cult wanted to bring about its ideal world and its god. And they wanted to do so through worship and sacrifice, as most weird cults do, for some reason. And
Why can't cults just have bake sales?
Because bake sales don't bring God.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a great way to get, Karen.
You have not tried my peanut butter squares. So there is a deity out there that will be summoned by my confectionaries.
There's probably some deity out there that's like, you know what I could go for? Some lemon squares and some Rice Krispie treats that are half baked and a little bit wrong. But no, apparently child sacrifice is the way to get their attention. So this whole thing goes back to basically this small girl named Alyssa Gillespie. And they figured out that this girl had like somewhat weird powers. And there's already a cult in the town. So this girl's got somewhat weird powers. They're like, well, if she's not our god, maybe she could be the vessel for our god. And, if you're a teenage kid in anything that has weird powers, one of two things happened. Either you're the popular kid, she wasn't, or you get horribly tortured and bullied.
Spoiler alert. Okay, there we go.
There's two options. You're either everybody's favorite or everyone's least favorite. But yeah, no, spoiler alert for a game that came out, I don't know, over 20 years ago. I think I'm out of spoiler basis territory, thankfully.
At this point, if you're watching, the entire thing's gonna be a spoiler.
Oh yeah, no. We are diving head first into this. Basically, to make this very long story as short but informative as possible, Alyssa goes ahead and is horribly mistreated by this cult. If I remember correctly, the canon is that she was partially burned and basically lives in a hospital for the majority of her childhood life to the point of almost adulthood, at which point she finally figures out how to manifest her powers properly. And now this is canon, the entire time that she's going through this, some random poor schmuck named Travis, who's a trucker and has like this entire backstory of, I had a fucked up childhood, he has wandered into Silent Hill, and already from the cult's actions and from all the horrible shit they did to Alessa, the entire town already has this reflection of your own sins upon you. And that's one of the things we're going to get into soon, where the town itself seems to be judgment personified. And that's what makes the Silent Hill games so creepy, because as you go through the games, usually you're presented with a character and it's like, this character is pretty innocent, pretty nice. They're never. There's one exception, and that's why the movies had to be so different, because A, they cast Sean Bean to play that character, and for once they let him live. And two, they went ahead and had a character who's genuinely an innocent character in a horror game, and it's like, well, no one relates to that. Right? Who can relate to someone who's genuinely innocent and has only the best intentions in mind? But yeah, so this dude, Travis, he's a trucker, and he gets stuck in Silent Hill. And already Silent Hill's gotten to the point where, like, it brings out the worst reflections of you. So the canon ending to all of this is that while he's in the town, he faces his own traumas, which manifest in a character very closely looking to Pyramid Head, because this story came out afterwards, called the Butcher. And as he deals with the Butcher, which is, of course, feelings about his father, Alessa basically kills 90% of the town. She finally kind of snaps and is just like, no, everyone dies. And in that, one of the cultists that manages to get to her is like, listen, you are going to go ahead and become this transcendent god. But if you wanted, you could probably take part of you and send it out into the world. Them expecting, hey, this will sow the seeds and turn the world into our paradise. Her instead, being a child, as far as anyone's concerned mentally, thinks to herself, I want the best parts of me to live on. So she takes out, all that innocence that was holding her back and manifests it in a child. And as Travis goes through these tribulations and comes out as like a reborn, totally okay with his past, fully functioning human being, he sees Alessa on the edge of the town, and she gives him a baby and goes ahead and sets like this baby out on its way. And that is the entire plot setup for the original Silent Hill.
Okay. I have so many questions.
Yeah, go.
I have so many. My first thought, okay. So when you said gives him a baby, my first thought was like, oh, just like 9 months like that. And I was like, wait, no, he handed her a baby. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, no, she was just like, take this. This is yours now.
Right. So this is actually something like that relates to another game, but I won't worry about that. So Alessa, is that her name?
Alyssa. Don't worry, it's not going to come up much more after this.
Okay. So when Alessa manifested herself, like she manifested her own innocence, did it leave behind the shell of her malevolence?
Oh, hell yes.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to make that note.
There's a reason the last boss of the first Silent Hill is what it is.
And I don't know how far you're going to get into this and stuff like that. Where do the movies fall in this lore? Okay. Is that something we don't talk about? Do we not talk about the movies?
So I will address the films quickly and like just kind of get them out of the way. They are a bastardization, and that is the best way to put it, of the first and third games.
Do we just skip the second?
For that, well, the second game was always a side story. Basically, they tried to Halloween 2 to 3 or Halloween 4 to 5, or Friday the 13th 4 to 5. If you've seen those films, where they go ahead and it's like, it's not Jason or it's not Michael this time. They basically did that with the main plot with Silent Hill 1 to 2. So the second one was an entirely different story, with the main carryover being the town of Silent Hill. The main story of what happens during Silent Hill 1 continues in 3. But yeah, the films are basically the main thing that'll explain to anyone who's seen the films. Alessa, Cheryl, or any of her family members never encounter Pinhead in the games, or Pyramid Head in the games. They have nothing to do with Pyramid Head.
Makes sense, because that's pretty much.
I will explain where Pyramid Head comes into this. I promise.
I can't wait for that.
So, we've talked about how the town now has like this scar, right? It's this manifested evil living in the town that's pretty much wiped out the majority of it. And it's, of course, based on that real town in Pennsylvania. But as a nod to... You've never heard about the town in Pennsylvania, Crashed?
No.
There's a town in Pennsylvania that's no longer inhabitable that has a coal fire that's been burning under it for the last 40 years, I want to say.
Oh, I think I just heard about this. Like, they thought that it was going to burn for a few days, and then it burned for several years.
It's still burning to this day, yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was based off of. However, as a nod to a very popular writer by the name of Stephen King, the town of Silent Hill is technically in Maine.
Okay.
Because all of his stuff always takes place in Maine.
Do you think that the real life town that it's over, do you think that'll ever be inhabitable again, or will people just never go?
I mean, they got to stop this coal fire first. After that, then you have to go ahead and test to see how damaged the soil is, so on and so forth.
I would say there's probably a pretty good amount of like soil pollution if it's just got it's going to have coal sprinkled on top of it for years.
Oh,
it's probably not going to be inhabitable. But it'd be a really
not in our lifetime.
Hipstery tourist spot for sure.
Well, you can't get into it now. Legally.
Well, that's what I mean. Like one day.
Yeah, of course. Never been there. But anyway, so the first Silent Hill game. So a guy by the name of Harry Mason, innocent, pure Harry Mason, goes ahead and adopts a daughter with his wife. Anyone want to take any guesses of what that little girl is?
Matilda.
We all wish it was Matilda. That would have been a fantastic game. I would have taken her to the library every day.
I'm going to assume she was the pure manifestation of Alyssa.
Very good. And guess what happens? As that little girl grows up, she feels called to this place in Maine called Silent Hill.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
so not to answer.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'll stop.
It's all good. But anyway, yeah, so she goes ahead and is getting these calls towards Silent Hill. So after his wife dies, Harry's like, you know what? Let's try to put an end to this. Just let it rest, so on and so forth. So he drives towards Silent Hill, gets into a car accident. When he wakes up, his daughter's missing. And it's one of those like, well, my daughter's missing. Better go start looking into it. So Harry enters the town of Silent Hill. And you can probably guess how that went. Now, the first Silent Hill game, because it's kind of about Alyssa and then Cheryl, his daughter now, and how she's dealing with everything and moving forward with her life. The best way to describe it is that every Silent Hill game, the enemies are different, with the exception of the nurses. And the reason for that is that every enemy is a representation of the person's internal struggles or problems or fears. All of the enemies in the first Silent Hill have nothing to do with Harry at all. He's not the person that's like in purgatory in Silent Hill this time. It's Alyssa and by proxy, his daughter Cheryl. So all of these things that he encounters, like what was censored for the European audiences of small children with knives with their mouths stitched shut and their throats slit, they're all her manifesting her being tortured by the other kids in school when she was young. The twisted nurses are because she was in a burn ward for God knows how long in a hospital. All of the monsters aren't, well, we'll get to that soon, but all of the monsters aren't the same for each person. And that's why we'll get to Pyramid Head soon, and we'll get to a line from the third game that upsets some people because they're like, but what does that mean? And it's a callback to Jacob's Ladder again, too, where it may look like demons to you, but they're angels to others. Anyway, so Harry's whole entire objective of this is like, I'm here to save my daughter. I don't give a shit what anyone else is doing. Get out of my way. I'm here for my daughter. And he basically unveils the story of the cult and them wanting to resurrect their god and all of this other ridiculous shenanigans. Now, I want to point out, the game came out in 1999, And it's one of those things where, like, to this day, I know people that won't play it. And it's like, it's a 1999 PS1 game. The graphics look like something that you could probably find if someone who had $20 and decided to buy assets off of Unity. And, like, they'd still look better. But to this day, no, the sound design is amazing. And one of the things that they did in this game that kind of shaped a lot of things to come in the future was a pocket radio. So you're given a pocket radio. It doesn't play music. It plays white noise and static. But it only plays white noise and static when there's monsters around. So it's like your heads up, something's coming to kill you button,
Dun, dun,
but
dun.
you can turn it off. You can play the entire game. Well, if you don't have sound on, why would you leave the radio on? There's people that play these games like silently for, dumb reasons.
Yeah, for ironic reasons.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that you mentioned that sound design was a big plus, and you're like, oh yeah, but people play it silent.
Yeah, because, dumb. But yeah, so Harry goes ahead and fights his way through this entire scenario. And basically, he finds himself back in the distorted world. That's another thing. Silent Hill's distorted world, explaining why everything's covered in rust and all the doors are locked. Basically, when Alessa's powers snap and go all the way out of control, she wants to punish anything near her. And as a result, it corrupts the world around her, not just the person she's targeting. And that's why all the paint peels back, everything turns rusty, and so on and so forth. It's literally a corruption of the world around you. And it essentially becomes a fog dimension for the most part. It appears differently in different games, but most commonly it shows up with shit's rusty and all the doors are locked. That's the best way to describe it.
So like in the first game and everything like that, is the town still, are the people there alive still, or when does everybody not be living in?
Okay, so what you've got in every single Silent Hill game is the town is devastated.
Okay.
You're gonna find like 8 people tops. On your best game, there'll be 8 people in the town. Other than Origins, the one that we talked about with Travis that explains like how the first game started. Okay. That one had a decent amount of people in the town. I'm trying to think. There's Dr. Kaufman, who is, of course, a cultist, because why aren't half the people that you find cultists? Lisa, the nurse, the police officer. Hold on, let me pull up notes. Yeah, Sybil, the police officer. Alessa is still alive, technically, at this point. Lisa, Dr. Kaufman. I think that's actually and then Dahlia Gillespie. Okay. Dahlia is Alessa's mother. For the grand story of like the plot of the series, she let her daughter be tortured. That's basically her significance.
Year.
Yeah, Mother of the Year. And then basically what happens is that he finds her and she's still there, and they've recombined, like they've brought Cheryl, his daughter, to Alessa, and the two of them are now one person again. Which, did he get a new daughter or did he lose one? The math's a little out on there. They recombine, and as such she continues being the vessel for their god, and it's like, oh, okay. And as a result, it gives birth to their god. But their god is literally named Incubus. It's meant to be a demonic spirit because look at the shit they did to bring it here. They tortured and burned a young girl. So, long story short, obviously, for the good ending, technically, Harry goes ahead and kills the Incubus. And as a result, you go ahead and get the incubator boss fight, so on and so forth. And a new baby is found by Harry. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm taking this one and leaving. That's it. The difference between good and good plus, because there's 2 variations of the ending and no one's sure which one's canon, is whether or not the police officer survives. That's the only difference for the plot relevant ending. So whether or not the police officer survived, nobody knows. All we know is that Harry found a baby and booked it. As anyone who had been through that would do.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Well, like, y'all went to Maine, fought a demon god, but hey, at least I got this sweet new baby.
It's probably 19 years or so. It's going to head on back to Maine, and I have to do this again. I hope I'm not that old yet.
It's just an endless cycle of him recycling babies.
Actually, that's kind of Silent Hill 3. And
No! Is it actually?
It is. That's why I said the plot continues from 1 to 3.
Awesome.
However,
I love it.
Like, I'm going to detour into 2 because that's the one everybody wants to hear about with Pyramid Head. Right. So, major spoilers for Silent Hill 2. If you haven't played it, why are you here?
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Leave.
Yes.
Run. Major spoilers for Silent Hill 2. You're playing as a character named James. James is an asshole. You don't know that at the beginning of the game. You're like, hey, I'm playing as James. He's supposed to meet his wife in Silent Hill. If you listen carefully, the plot of the game spoils itself in the first 20 minutes. I'm not kidding. So remember I mentioned the radio and the white static? When James finds his radio, if you listen to it before the static comes in, there's an interrupted message that he points out is from his wife, Mary. Like, it's her voice. He's like, that was Mary's voice, but that's impossible. She's dead. But if you listen to what, like, that's the whole thing. He got a letter from a dead woman. That's why he went to Silent Hill. He's like, why did I get a letter from my dead wife? If you listen to the, like, radio really carefully as you start up the game, literally you hear, I'm glad that you're back in Silent Hill. Something, something, something. James, why did you kill me? Like, straight up, the game will spoil itself if you're paying enough attention. It has no problem with that. So, yeah, the entirety of Silent Hill 2 is the town calling James because he killed his wife and they want to punish him.
Oh.
So what is Pyramid Head? Pyramid Head, according to the cult, is their god's divine angel of literal judgment. It's also, in this case, the fact that James went ahead and killed his wife. He made the judgment to do so. If you play through Silent Hill 2, you meet a character named Maria. Okay? Maria doesn't exist. She is literally a creation of the town. And you kind of figure this out if you're paying a couple bits of close attention, because she dies and forgets about it. Like, you see her die, and she doesn't care. But he points out, it looks like his wife Mary, except sexier.
Oh, okay.
That's literally his words. And throughout the entire playthrough, like, Pyramid Head keeps killing her. And that's when James is kind of like, this is judgment. It's also the judgment I made when I killed her at the end of the game, as he comes to that realization. So Pyramid Head is literally James's internalized guilt that he can't acknowledge. That's why when you get to the last fight with Pyramid Head, I'm sorry, I air quoted the wrong point. Fight with Pyramid Head.
Okay.
Because you get into this thing, there's 2 Pyramid Heads there, and it's just like, dear Lord, what the hell? You just have to wait like a minute. Like, don't waste your ammo. Wait a minute. Because the 2 of them just put down their weapons and fall on them. Because the fact that you're not fighting back is the town's symbol of like, oh, he's come to accept what he's done. Okay. That's like the overarching point of James's story. However, even though he comes to that realization, the town's not done with him yet. They're kind of like, yeah, it's great that you've acknowledged what you've done, but you still killed your wife. So here's your last test. And Mary appears to James as the final boss and then transforms to a monstrosity because it's Silent Hill. But on her hospital bed, the whole plot to the game was James killed his wife because he wasn't going to cheat on her. He was loyal and faithful. But she had cancer and was dying in her hospital bed. And since she couldn't fulfill his needs and he didn't want to go ahead and be unfaithful, he put an end to her. And he justified it as he was ending her suffering.
Yikes.
Silent Hill 2. Fucking love the game.
James is a hoe.
Right. That's the whole thing. You start off with this game and it's like, oh, James is here to find his wife, or why ever he got a letter from his dead wife. And by the end of the game, you're like, fuck James.
I will say this, though. The Pyramid Heads, one, horrifying. Mm-hmm. One of the most brutal kills I've ever seen in any horror movie is when the Pyramid Head... Yes! He picks that lady up and literally just rips the skin off her body.
Yep.
That is brutal. I remember watching that as a kid. I was like, okay. Okay.
I think my favorite part of that is like the fucking little flourish to the kill where like he does that, he rips the skin off, and like as they're slamming the door to the church shut because holy crap, Pyramid Head, he throws the skin in there. He's like, this is yours.
Great movie. Everybody should take some time out and watch it.
All right, movie.
It's okay.
Don't watch it after listening to the lore. Give it like a week, because otherwise you're going to be looking at it like, they messed this up. Anyway.
Don't they
But
always in the movies?
James isn't the only person that was called to Silent Hill, by the way, in that story either. You run into like 3 other people. Each one of them has their own reason for being there and their own reason that the town called them to torment them. One is a young girl who killed her father because he was abusing her. Now, coin flips out there whether or not like she really should be punished by this. But I think the reason the town like actually pulled her in is she was going to kill herself over her decision to kill him. And it was like, no, you need to learn something. And then there's another character by the name of Eddie. And Eddie, he's just as bad as James. Basically, he is a soon-to-be full-on serial killer, but he hasn't quite gotten there yet. So when you first meet him, he's like, I killed this dog. Well, it needed to be put down. And then the second time you find him, he's like, that person was dead when I got here. And then the third time, he's like, I'm going to kill you. And it's like, oh, okay. We've come full circle.
Yeah. At least he got that push he needed, really.
Oh,
That's what most people.
Yeah, the town went ahead and pushed him to be the serial killer he always wanted to be. So how are we looking? How you on questions?
So in this game, can you play as those other characters? Are they just people you meet along the way?
They're just people you meet along the way.
Okay.
They're like world building aspects of like, oh, it's not just James. Like James isn't special. It's anyone who's done wrong, kind of.
Can be called by Silent Hill, yeah.
I think it's people with like distorted desires. No, it's more like desires. Because like
it can be, but mainly for this story, because the other games take it different ways.
Okay. So the town, the town as doing its own thing, like it pretty much decides who's worthy, worthy is a weird way to put it. Who's
deserving of getting their ass handed to them.
Yeah, who's getting called there.
Basically. You got time for another game?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got time for another game.
Just wanted to confirm before I jump into Silent Hill 3 and the mind fuckery that is that game. Silent Hill 3 is my favorite in the series, by the way.
Okay.
There's a reason for it, and it's not anything to do with the main plot. So I'm going to go over the main plot, and I'm going to go over one very specific thing that this game did that I've never seen any other game do that fucks with you as a player. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's not a fourth wall break. It's not a Monica moment in Doki Doki. It's something else that I never expected to actually have used against me in a game. Okay. So let's start off with the general plot. You're playing as a girl named Heather. You've no reason to know anything about Silent Hill. You're a girl going to the mall. You have an okay relationship with your dad. Your mom passed away when you were born. Sound like a cover story yet? What if I said your dad's name was Harry?
Oh, God. No.
So you're a girl that goes to the mall, and today is her 17th birthday. And you get a weird fucking phone call at the mall. And you're like, the fuck? So all of a sudden, the mall turns into this horrible hellscape nightmarish place, and you have no idea why. And the only people that you know like that are there are a detective that you ran into earlier that you refused to talk to, who was trying to get your name from you. And you. That's it. There's no one else here. You're wandering around this mall. You have like a lead pipe and a hope. That's about it. You find a handgun eventually. You're going, just making your way through this mall and hoping and praying. And the second you leave the mall, everything outside's fine. You fight like the boss that's at the end of the mall. You step out the front doors and everything's fine. And she's just like, what the hell is going on? So, of course, the detective shows up. It's like, hey, I need to talk to you. And she's like, yeah, no thanks. So she books it, and then she gets to like the subway station leading to her home. And the plot of this game basically follows, for the first half, Heather's trying to go home to talk to her dad about the weird day she's had. That's the first half of the game. And every place you go just gets destroyed Silent Hill style. And you're like, the fuck is going on? So you've never been told her dad's name at this point, by the way. You get home and you find that your dad is dead in your apartment. Horribly slain, bloody all over the couch, and ritualistic style killing. And in his blood, written on the wall, is "Come to Silent Hill." Yep.
Now, look, I'm not the smartest person. I've never claimed to be. But, if there was a message on the wall written in my father's blood that said, go to this place, I would not go to that place.
I mean, how much do you like your dad is the real question. Because Heather genuinely loves her dad.
I love my parents, but their blood is on the wall.
Right.
It says go to this place.
She didn't go there because she wanted to chat. She goes there like full of fury.
Oh, I like that. Vengeance.
Like she's going there to find who did this and kill them type deal.
Ooh.
And at this point, the detective has arrived at their apartment because he's been stalking her the whole time. Sees the dead dad and is like, nah, I'll give you a ride. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. So you get there to Silent Hill and you finally meet some more of these cultists, including one who's been calling you on the phone repeatedly. And you basically meet, what the hell's her name? Hold on. Pulling up notes. There's Vincent, who has that glorious line I referenced earlier. And Vincent's line is basically asking, like, you tell him that you've been killing all of these monsters that you've been finding, yeah? And he goes, you see them as monsters? And that one line just messes with so many people because it's just, it's that one question of, you see them as monsters, really? And
did they explain what he means?
He does, because he goes ahead and asks you if you see them as monsters. And when you say, yeah, he goes, well, to some, they're angels going ahead and taking you to paradise. So it's one of those moments where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, the fuck?
Cult people are crazy. That's one of my first things. Cult people are crazy.
So wait, I want to ask specifically, does he say, do you see them as monsters, or does he say, do you see them as demons?
Hold on, let me find, I can probably find the exact quote. Let's see.
That's a good
Yeah. Because demons is almost entirely a religious sense of like manifestations of sin, whereas monsters are just big, scary, can hurt me thingy don't like.
That's fair.
Yeah, like monsters can manifest in like any way.
Quote. There's also,
we can find it after.
Well, I'm pulling it up now.
Okay.
It's one of those, I had to find the right article that has it.
Yeah.
He says they look like monsters to you. Like, that's his exact line when she says she had to fight her way here through, swathes of monsters and so on. And he says they look like monsters to you, like very specifically. And there's implication that he might have been kidding and trying to mess with her, but there's also the implication that he's genuinely questioning.
Fair.
Does he know who she is?
He knows exactly who she is. And he's actually been sitting in the town waiting for her to come back. One of the phone calls that kind of sing-song wishes her happy birthday in the beginning of the game is literally him.
Oh.
I think that's good, too, that they would leave it like vague like that, just because intrigue.
Exactly. The other cultist that I was trying to think of her name, Claudia, okay? She's going to be important for the end of the game. But more importantly, she shows up repeatedly through the game, kind of egging you to go back to Silent Hill. But every time you encounter her, you're kind of like, shut the fuck up and leave me alone. Who the hell are you?
Would be too.
Like most people would be, yeah. It turns out, like, the original, and this is a fun part. Now, we pointed out that, like, Heather was born from, Cheryl and Alessa being refused and then the demon boss being killed. So original Alessa went to school with Claudia. As far as Heather's concerned, this is some random old woman. But as far as Claudia is concerned, this is a person that she knew reborn. And proof that their god has mysterious powers that can work through them.
Oh, great. That's what cult people need. More proof that what they're believing is real. That's what really spurs them on.
So one of the big things that happens is that, you know, she's kind of going through all of this. It's as much a game about a girl coming into womanhood as it is a game of this girl being tortured. So there's lots of phallic imagery, a lot of like, I'm uncomfortable in my own skin moments for Heather. One of the big things that they went ahead is they pointed out that her dad gave her a necklace, and it's been in your inventory since the beginning of the game. All right. As you go into Silent Hill, every once in a while, like once you get into the town, Heather kind of doubles over in pain. They don't really explain it. There are often like mini cutscenes where they do it, but like she's just in pain, and it seems like her stomach hurts. So they kind of go ahead and imply once everything is done and you get to like the last big cathedral that basically by coming back to the town, they've used the power of this dark town to go ahead and cause her to try to once again bring upon the birth of their god. And because she's at that age where, you know, hormones and certain biological functions start up again, she's the prime vessel. Well, the necklace that her dad gave her is like the last remnants of a key item you used in the first game to go ahead and beat the last boss, which was the vessel of that god. So if you pay attention to the way the game kind of hints at it and stuff like that, you're given a scene where either you can kill Claudia, because it's revealed that she's the one that killed your dad and wrote "Come to Silent Hill" on the wall. Or you can go ahead and do what your dad would have wanted, which is, you know, resist the temptations of Silent Hill. And she takes the vial that's hidden in the necklace, which was the last of the thing that they used on the other one, and she drinks it. Now, I don't know about you, but a 17-year-old mystery liquid in a necklace probably isn't my first thing to go ahead and chug.
Nah, it's be a hard pass for me. I don't even like drinking tea after it's been in the fridge for a couple days, to be honest with you. That's 17 years.
Well, this gets the job done, and she actually vomits up what is essentially the fetus of this god.
Oh! So we're talking full-on demonic artificial insemination here,
and she just pukes it up.
Oh,
I'm gonna one better you. She pukes it up with a one-liner. She goes ahead and throws it up onto the floor, and says to Claudia, "Looks like God didn't make it."
Oh, perfect though. That is top tier.
Perfect for this character. Like she was that kind of sassy, you know, teenager. So that goes ahead and happens. And what's the worst thing you could think would possibly happen here? I'm gonna let you answer.
I
eat it.
Very good.
I was gonna say the worst thing is
why?
Yeah, Claudia basically shoves Heather out of the way, eats the fetus because now she wants to be the vessel of God. And then you go ahead and kill Claudia again. Yeah, okay. Claudia's dead, gives birth to the god. You go ahead and kill the god. And then Heather gets to leave Silent Hill and basically attempt to go ahead and have a real life. If you get the good or the normal ending, you find the detective who was injured earlier just kind of waiting outside of where all this went down.
I'm not going in to see. I'm not going in there either. That's where you get demonic babies magically implanted in you. I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
But it's full of protein.
Is there an S plus ending or a high tier ending?
Yeah, you stay your ass at home and don't go to Silent Hill in the first place. That's the S ending.
I mean, there is a series of joke endings to these. I was going to address them if we got that far. But
Okay.
no, the real ending is when she goes back outside. She finds Douglas, the name of the detective, and he's just sitting on a bench. And like she walks up to him like she's possessed and she's going to kill him. And then she's like, "Just kidding," and like they laugh about it. And whatchamacallit, Douglas calls her Heather, and he insists that he calls her Cheryl instead, the name that her father originally gave to her before they had to keep moving around to get away from the cult and changing their name.
This is a wild ride.
Oh, this is only the first 3 games in the series, and I'm about to go ahead and blow your mind with something different. Something from this game that literally to this day has stuck with me. It's the reason it's my favorite game, okay?
Okay.
So, any horror game or any game like this, what's one of the most important things you can get besides ammunition?
Save points. Light.
Save points are a good one. I was going to go with information.
Oh, okay.
How to do the puzzle.
Puzzles, yeah.
Well,
So
that's
in
actually
this-
like the base where fear comes from. Like your innate instincts of fear come from like how little information you can pull from your surroundings.
So get this. In the subway, when it goes to the dark side of everything, you can find 2 articles that you go ahead and find in random parts of the subway. And they talk about people going ahead and jumping off the subway tracks and how they feel like they've been pushed and actually killed. If you find both of these articles, which are just lying in regular places that you'll find information, when you get down to the part where you need to navigate the actual area by the subway, ghosts will push you off that you cannot see and you'll be instantly killed. If you do not read these bits of information, you are fine. You will not have this happen.
What a troll. That's awesome.
We're literally punished for going ahead and playing like any other game. And I always loved that. It was just that little bit of like, hey, so this is how you're used to playing these? No, I don't think so.
I just love the fact they're like, let's build an entire world, an interesting story, an intricate web, a weave of tiny little details and things you can't control. Oh, I'm the player now. I'd like to explore it. You swine.
How dare thee? How dare thee? Oh, that is awesome.
Like, I can't think of any other games that have really pulled that too often. Like, maybe 1 or 2, but where it's like, oh, if you've read this, then something goes wrong later. But it was such like a jarring thing, like in 2003, 4, somewhere around there, when like I'm just playing this on the PS2 and it's like, oh, cool, wow, they're really doing some lore building about like ghosts pushing you off the subway trains, and then I get shoved off and killed, and I was like, oh,
yeah,
all right then.
That one's on me.
To load my save file, and I'm like, well, I don't need to read that article. I've already read it. I don't care. Go back down there. I don't get shoved off, and I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Mm-hmm. That's perfect, though. It was great. How dare you go and read the stories that we put there for you?
Right.
We're going to get you.
It's up there for me with Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 has one safe room where you're not safe.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that one. I want to hear about that one day. So, I've got some questions. I don't know if
by all means,
Crash has some. I'll start off. I'll let him get his thoughts together. So, the town is in purgatory, and anytime you enter the town, you enter that purgatory state, or is that dependent upon if you were called there by the town?
So, it seems to vary by person to person. Okay, like James never really gets to go to Silent Hill Pleasant. There's like normal and bad for him. There is no good. On the flip side of the coin, like Heather and Harry end up in regular ass Silent Hill, and it's just like the town as it is on the map. And then sometimes a switch flips and all the walls get rusty and doors get locked.
How many Silent Hills are there?
Okay, so
Swan, weren't you paying attention?
There's only one town, and that's too many. There's Origins, 1, 2, 3, 4, Homecoming, Downpour, We don't count Book of Memories because that is like a Diablo 2 ripoff game. So 7 technically, and then there's the PT playable teaser demo.
Sad,
rest in
Oh,
peace.
I saw the PT
Are
playable
they?
teaser.
Yeah, are they still working on it or
No.
Okay.
The reason that got pulled from PSN and made all the PS4s, including mine, so expensive, if you have it on there, is it was going to be made by Kojima, one of the directors from the old Silent Hill games, and Guillermo del Toro.
Okay.
Like, those were the minds behind it. So when they scrapped Kojima, they scrapped the whole thing.
Oh.
There's been a couple spiritual successors around, one of which I backed. It wasn't that bad.
What was that?
Inflicted.
Okay.
Play through the entirety of Inflicted. When the credits roll, my real name is in there somewhere.
Ooh.
I was a Kickstarter backer.
Nice.
Dang. So when you get through it, so again, I know you're going to talk more about these down the line. When you get to the end, what was the last one? Downpour?
Okay, so
canonically,
Silent Hills 1 and 3 are linked.
Okay.
By actual like story of Alyssa and all the things that happen there. 2 is just about James and how James is a fuck up.
Okay.
4 is about an entirely different character and why that character is horrible and the things that dude did.
Okay.
Homecoming is about a different dude who did horrible things and that's what he did. And then Downpour is about a different dude and the horrible things that he did. Basically, 1 and 3 are like your main stories
and the
of
other
like
ones
how
are...
the town came to be. The other ones are this town's still here, it's still fucked up, and it's still calling people to it. These are their stories.
So 3 was your favorite, even though the other ones were newer renditions. The third one just holds the place in your heart because of just the spookiness and story and that line, of course.
That proper atmosphere, the references back to Jacob's Ladder, which was what inspired the team. By the way, I did forget to mention there is a reimagining of the first Silent Hill. That's the one you might have seen with the ice called Shattered Memories. I think it was originally a Wii game. So there's technically 8, but that's kind of a remake of the first one. If I say any more, it's massive spoilers for it.
Okay. So. Really weird game for me to think that we're going to put this on the Wii. Not exactly...
That entire game was just weird. I mean, it was a ton of fun, don't get me wrong, but it was weird because, like, not only was it a Silent Hill that was ice themed instead of fog, but you don't fight your enemies at any time, you just run away. It was a weird game, but it makes sense when you play it. It's just very different. It was a reimagining. It was well done for what it was.
Grandma's using the Wii. She's playing Pilates. She hits the wrong button, and all of a sudden, she's fighting ice demons. That sounds about right.
She was trying to play Pilot Wings instead. Now she's here trying to go ahead and get this girl out of a town.
Hey, Cameron.
Hey, but maybe you'll win a free baby. It seemed to work out for Henry.
Not in that one.
That's Henry, true. It worked out, and Henry's daughter could have. Don't know. Might have had a demon baby.
I think she kind of gave that up when she drank the 17-year-old juice. It was great.
Crash, what questions do you have?
Okay, going back to that line, what sparks controversy around that? Is there controversy within the community of Silent Hill, or more just in the game?
It's one of those lines that kind of goes ahead and digs at the back of your psyche, and it comes about 3/4 into a game that's messing with perspective in the first place. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not sure how much like she actually has influence over everything once you find out that she's the reincarnation of Cheryl. Like, once that information is laid out at the table, it's like, is she bringing Silent Hill to these places? Is Silent Hill showing up because these people are interfering in her life? Is Silent Hill showing up because she's hit that age? Like, does she have no control over it? And then it just kind of goes ahead and has this character who seems rather calm and composed in the middle of Silent Hill. Like, it's a cultist who's just sitting there at a table, like, reading a notebook in a library. And you walk up to him and you're talking to him. and he seems rather calm and composed. Everyone else, mind you, at this point, other than the detective who's just confused, and you can tell he's just like, I don't know. Yeah, he's trying to figure things out, but is a little bit out of his pay grade.
Yeah,
but Vincent's just sitting in this library going, oh no, everything's fine. And then you go ahead and you're like, I fought my way through monsters. And he's like, they looked like monsters to you? And it's kind of sing-songy in the tone. Like I said, it's kind of implied that he might be messing with her. But at the same time, if he's being honest, it could be that these creatures look like normal people and you're just killing normal people and you've gone insane. Or it could be that you don't see them for what they are. They're angels and they're bringing you to paradise.
Do we ever see Vincent leave that place or fight anyone?
Nope.
Oh, that would have been too big of a clue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there any thought that like Vincent would be higher deity or anything around that?
He's definitely a human and he's definitely a cultist.
Okay. The mystery shall not be solved by me tonight, I'll tell you that.
It's one of those things that still gets argued over. No one's exactly sure whether he's just trying to mess with her or if he's being honest. But then again, that harkens entirely back to the movie Jacob's Ladder, where a very similar line is said as like one of the key points of the film. Do you know the story of Jacob's Ladder? Have you seen the film?
I've not. I wrote it down because it's something I need to go watch because I love horror movies.
I was about to say, do you want me to spoil it then?
No, because I want to watch it. I want to watch it. And if you guys are watching this episode, also go watch the movie.
I'm not going to spoil the ending, but I'm going to say that line that's like it's a callback to is spoken by his chiropractor like 2/3 of the way through the movie. And he's talking about life of regrets. And if you have regrets and you're clinging to your life, then it looks like demons are trying to steal your soul. But if you're at peace, they're angels just coming to free you from your heavenly body, talking about death. So it's a callback to that line, which they've spoken about Jacob's Ladder being an influence on the series. And if you've seen Jacob's Ladder, it makes that scene so much worse because you're like, oh crap, what have I been doing?
All right. I have no more questions, but I actually have a recommendation. Have you ever heard of the Persona series, Magnus?
Yes. As one of the few people who has streamed both Persona 2s.
Okay.
Yes.
I was about to say, like, the entire time, I'm just like, oh, I hope he hasn't heard of this. I'm going to give him something great.
No.
To enjoy.
I've actually been one of those people giving people a hard time because they're like, I played 3, 4, and 5. I'm like, oh, so you skipped the good one. Good on you. If you've played Persona 2, you understand what I mean. Any game that can justify, hey, one of our plot devices is Hitler. Yes, Hitler. And it's plot relevant with the Spear of Destiny. Persona 2.
Funny enough, that's like the third time someone said Hitler on this podcast. It's really... that's the craziest part because last week... No, it happens. It comes in all of them. I don't know why, but it does.
I mean, I've got the same birthday as the dude, so
wow. That'll do it.
It makes my birthday so great for so many people and so horrible for like anyone who has the birthday because my birthday is 4/20. So all the stoners get super excited, and then the rest of us who actually have the birthday, we're like, today sucks.
Yeah. So, do you have a question for us, Magnus, or maybe for the viewers?
I mean, there's always my favorite fun question. I don't know if you heard me talking about this, Shiny. You actually walked past me at TwitchCon just as I finished talking about it. One of my favorite questions to ask people is, what's your favorite scary movie? But the reason for that is my voicemail. My voicemail on my phone is not my voice. It is a recording that I got done at a horror convention by Roger L. Jackson. Name doesn't mean anything to you until I'm like, oh, he's a popular voice actor, and he's done the voice of Mojo Jojo in the original Powerpuff Girls, among other things. So among the other things, he's the voice on the phone when somebody gets called in the Scream films, and the killer's on the other line. That's not a voice modulator. That's a voice actor. So my entire voicemail on my phone is him going ahead in the Scream voice, like interrogating the person who called me.
That's
so one of my favorite things is every time like I hear my voicemail on somebody else's phone, it's like, what's your name? What's your number? I want to know who I'm looking at. What's your favorite scary movie? It's so great if people know me, because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that's so him. But if you don't know me, if you're a telemarketer, yeah, have fun.
Oh man.
Imagine butt dialing or just dialing your number by accident, like wrong
Worst
number
day
dialing
ever.
you, and you're just like, oh, well, life has been great.
I'm out. Time to roll. For my answer, I think one that still sticks with me to this day is the movie Drag Me to Hell.
Very good one. Nice bit of comedy horror.
Yeah, I really liked the comedy, and I liked how that it actually was scary when it needed to be scary, and then like even the parts that were scary, there was funny things about it. Like when the demon goat was dancing on the table, like horrifying but hilarious because he's like like it was really good. What would you consider Rose Red?
Rose Red was a Stephen King television series. It's a bit of a horror drama.
Okay. If that would fall into like the length of a movie, I would vote that everything because that was horrifying. It was
a solid TV series, like a TV miniseries that a lot of people just kind of passed up because it was split like what 6 times.
Oh yeah, and that was legitimately like I remember watching. I was younger and I was like, this is horrifying.
Yeah, so. I always find it funny that they don't give the It miniseries, because the original Tim Curry It was a TV miniseries as well. They consider that to be a film because it lands at about feature film length. But I want to say Rose Red's like what 3.5 hours, so they consider it a full miniseries, and as a result, they don't give it as much credit. It's a solid one. It's not bad, not at all.
How about you, Crash?
I have a mixed answer for this. The movie I can't watch to this day because I watched it when I was like 9 was The Grudge, and it was terrifying. I still don't know how it ends. I'll never find out. I will die before I watch that movie again. But
if you had
so that's my
ending, you would die.
But my favorite scary movies usually just make me laugh because they're so ridiculous. Yeah. And the second I can get myself detached from the scene and the characters, I just start laughing. And there's a point in 2 movies, Insidious makes me cry from laughing. And as above is so below.
As above, so below.
Yes. There's a part where I think it was the African American is on the top of a well, and you see like a woman's face behind him, and then he just falls flat, and I hear the Gibby meme every time I see it, where he just falls down, and I start crying from that.
Fair enough.
I laugh so hard. But I will never watch Grudge.
What about you, Magnus?
I mean, horror. You're asking me to pick my favorite child, but I mean, I have certain films that I'm really partial to.
Okay.
I'm gonna give you 5, and if you haven't seen them, I recommend.
I'm gonna write them down. I got my paper out.
Okay. So if you haven't seen Hellraiser, what's wrong with you?
Great series.
Hellraiser. Watch the second one. Actually, don't watch the first one. The second one sums up the first one in 5 minutes and gives you a whole additional film.
Fair.
There is a very popular horror series is people like home invasion films. I don't know why. It's weird. People like them. Have you seen You're Next? Watch You're Next, because You're Next does something. I was actually talking about this on Twitter a couple days ago. You're Next does something that other horror movies don't, that I love how they did. So you know how in pretty much every horror movie somebody steps up and becomes the hero? Mm-hmm. They justify it to you. They go ahead, they make this female lead the hero, and they give you a reason for her to be the hero. And the reason they give is legitimate. Like, it's one of those like, oh, wow, okay, I'm all for that.
Okay.
Definitely recommend that one.
Got it. You're next.
If you haven't seen the first Scream, get on that.
I think
it's
we've
the
all
reason
seen
we have self-aware horror movies. If you have seen the first one, see the fourth one if you haven't. Because
I don't think I've seen the fourth one.
Okay, so for what Scream 1 did for horror in general, Scream 4 did for like reboots and series that went forever, like Saw, Friday the 13th. Like it jabs those instead of just horror in general. And I love that bit of it because it acknowledges like Scream 4, this is like a new trilogy. It's like a reboot. And that means all the rules are off. The only way you could survive this is like, I don't know, maybe if you're gay? I don't know. Like they're just saying like all rules are gone.
Yeah.
And they address the fact that like they even acknowledge that like it's kind of like a reboot. I guess everything's going to be gorier and more over the top. And nobody's safe. Like it's just one of those like, okay, fair. I enjoyed that film, even if I called the killer in the theater like 10 minutes in.
Yeah.
I'm bad about that. It's
okay.
It's another reason we were talking about horror games this entire time. Mm-hmm. Play Until Dawn. After you play Until Dawn, if you play Man of Medan and you do like I did and call the plot in 25 minutes, I'm sorry. Don't watch my streams of that.
I was there.
You'll get the splat. Yeah.
You
were there, and I'm like, wait, is this the plot? Oh, this is the plot. Darn it. Let's see. So that was 3 horror films. If you like comedy horror and you haven't seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil, get on that.
As
that is one of like the best reversals of horror tropes that I've seen in forever. And then I'm going to give you one of my favorite. Actually, I'll give you 2 more because I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give you one of my favorite indies. One of my favorite indie films that never gets enough love is called Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. And the reason that I suggest that one is it is set up like a documentary for about 80% of the film, but not a documentary you're thinking. It's literally a film crew following a would-be horror icon, the guy that wants to be the next Michael Myers, the next Jason Voorhees, as he's prepping and getting ready to slaughter a bunch of kids. And like they're following him on his training regimen. You know, they're meeting other people that he knows that are other retired mass murderer horror icons. It's heavily implied like the old guy he goes and hangs out with is supposed to be Michael Myers after all these years, retired, living out in the middle of the woods.
I just see him like training like in a room full of like little dolls and just just getting better at it.
Something like that. One of my favorite lines from it is like they're asking him like, why are you so out of breath? Why are you doing so much cardio? He's like, are you kidding me? These kids, they get to run away from you. And what am I allowed to do? A brisk walk at best. You got to be able to take large strides and catch up. Oh, it's such a great deconstruction. It has a lot of horror icons in it. And like I said, I'm cheating. The last one I'm going to suggest is American Mary. If you haven't seen it, American Mary is a film by the Soska sisters. The Soska twins are a set of twins that are from Canada. They're horror movie directors. All their stuff's fucking amazing. Like I would recommend any of their films, but American Mary I think is the one you'll get the most bang for your buck.
All
right. So thank you for coming on, Magnus. Where can we find you? What do you got going on? If somebody wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, the easiest way to get in touch with me was either to go to twitter.com/MagnusMKI, where you'll see either me ranting about random things or pictures of my fiance and I's cat, because everyone loves Knox, and I don't understand why. He's an asshole.
Adorable.
He is adorable, but he is such a jerk. If you want to go ahead and see me rambling incoherently after work as I attempt to de-stress, I will be easily found over on twitch.tv/MagnusMKI, where you'll find me playing surprise horror games. And if it looks like I'm not playing a horror game, just wait. Just you wait. It will happen. It's like the game that we just finished, Caligula Effect. Everyone's sitting there going, oh, you found a nice Japanese anime JRPG. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yup. Last 2 days, it's just a horror game.
I thought it was a JRPG. That's what I thought it was when I was watching. I was like, oh, sweet. And it doesn't.
And then everything just, the last shoe dropped. And I'm like, yeah, the people that wrote Persona 2 wrote this. Welcome.
Awesome.
But yeah, so the next big thing is currently playing The Surge 2. I'm going to be doing a 12-hour charity stream with that on Sunday of this upcoming week. So yeah, there we go. Sunday, October 13th, as I like to refer to it, Dyslexic Halloween, because the numbers are backwards.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be a 12-hour stream of The Surge 2 to benefit a charity called Electronic Saviors, Industrial Music to Cure Cancer. That is a charity that I've personally seen their work in action. I know someone who was diagnosed with cancer. Long story short, musician friend of mine, to give you a perspective, is about 20 years my senior and was present at Ground Zero on 9/11.
Wow.
So we're not sure whether it was his lifestyle habits or from being exposed for his throat cancer diagnosis. However, the day that he found out and went public with it, the charity actually reached out to him. And one of the reasons I like this charity is it's very much involved in the industrial scene. There's reasons for that. And what they do is 80% of the money they raise goes to cancer research. The other 20% is kept in a slush fund that when people get diagnoses of cancer and things like that, most of the time their life falls apart. They don't know how to go ahead and get to work or afford their bills and whatnot. That other 20% of what's raised is kept as a slush fund. And when these moments pop up, they reach out to them. It's like, what do you need covered for this month so you can go ahead, take care of your bills and take care of your appointments. So they make sure that they can get on that road to recovery if possible.
Good. Awesome. So I hope to see everybody else there. I know I will be there. I'm taking Sunday off for it. And this stream is, or this podcast is very big on fuck cancer. So we are all about that. So this has been episode 6? Episode 6 of the Nerdlore podcast. Thanks everybody for coming out.